All right, today's video is going to be Atomic Habits, pages 56 through 100. Yesterday's video, I went from 1 to 55. And so I'm just going to be talking about the most important ideas and strategies and techniques that I am getting out of the book, and just talking about them on camera for you guys. I'm not sure how long this video will be, but we'll just get right into it. The first one is that every habit has a cue. So the example I wrote down is maybe when you get into bed, immediately you put your covers on, anticipating a cold night, and the cue is jumping into the bed. The habit is pulling on the covers immediately. Maybe other people just jump into the bed and they don't put the covers on because they're not ready to sleep. Everyone has different habits, right? You need to call attention to the cues and the habits if you want to change them, or if you want to make a new one. So for this idea, if we're trying to make a new habit, we want to do something that James Clear calls implementation intention. And in this example, it's when X happens, I'll do this. So maybe you are trying to work on your social habits and skills, for example, and someone is rude to you. The thing you're trying to change, or the intention, is standing up for yourself. And what you do is, when X happens, so when someone is rude to me, I immediately take a deep breath and then say, I don't appreciate being talked to that way. Something else he goes over in this section of the book that I am going over right now is that most people, when they're trying to change their habits, they don't lack motivation to change. They lack clarity. They aren't being specific enough with what they want to change. So in the example I just gave, an unclear change someone would want to make is, I want to stand up for myself more. Okay, what does that mean? Could mean a number of things. And in fact, that vagueness can allow your weaker side to win in the event that someone is rude to you, let's say. However, I'm going to take a deep breath and directly after say, I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. That is very clear. And also the cause, or the cue, is also very clear. When someone is rude, or when someone makes me feel X, I am going to say this. And that way you already have a plan. As soon as someone does something, you don't even have to think, oh, how am I going to take care of this? You already have a premeditated plan. You do your breath, you say your thing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to talk about is habit stacking. And this is a very popular idea that a lot of people either remember or talk about from this book. And I have personally used it before. I'm obviously reading it for the first time right now. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I've read this white book right here. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and it's pretty similar. I don't know what that little bubble was. I don't know if you guys could see that. But essentially, you are tying a new behavior to an old behavior. So in one of the examples in the book, he says if you struggle to take, let's say, a medication, put it next to the faucet in your bathroom, and every night when you brush your teeth, you're going to see that. You're going to have to take it. You want to take it, you just struggle to remember. And so if it's next to your faucet, you're not going to forget. It's right there. So your habit is, I go in to brush my teeth, and now the new habit you're tying on is I take my medication every night, right after I brush my teeth. Another really good example is for exercise, and it is, you get home from work and you take your shoes off, and immediately after you take your shoes off, the habit you're tying on is changing into your workout clothes. This is going to make it a lot easier for you to move forward and going and doing your workout. And you're going to be more inclined to, because you just put on the clothes. You're not just going to sit around in your house in the clothes. It's less likely, at least. So you come home, take your shoes off. Now you just take your clothes off, put your workout clothes on, and now you can eat something or just go right to the gym. So it's another example of habit stacking and tying a new habit that you're trying to form onto an old habit that already happens no matter what you do. The third point I want to talk about is actually very interesting, and I really should label I should tell you guys the chapters on these. Let me just find that. Just because it would be nice. Okay, so chapter 6. Chapter 6 in part 1 of the book. He talks about, well, I guess the exact title is Motivation is Overrated. environment matters more. And this is something that, I mean, I don't want to sound like I just do everything right. I absolutely don't. In fact, part of me reading all these books and uploading these videos every day is so that I'm internalizing what I'm reading once, writing it down, so that's twice. I don't know what that bubble is again, but whatever. And then lastly, when you teach something, it ingrains it more. So I'm trying to ingrain these things in myself more. But my specific example from this, and then I'll go over his, is for in motivation is overrated, environment matters more. It's very easy to become addicted to social media or just use it to pass time, and you're wasting time. And so for me, no matter how motivated I am not to scroll for a few hours, the environment of I still have Instagram on my phone makes it hard for me to do that. And I'll go over more about that in the next point. That's actually really important, so remember that. But I just delete Instagram. Now Instagram isn't in my environment. I don't have to worry about it. And you'll notice actually once you delete it, you'll just get on your phone and just swipe back and forth for a second, and you're like, there's nothing to do on my phone, and you'll put it down. And for the first while, it's actually kind of rough, depending on how addicted you are to the social media. And I always think it's really interesting that you have that cue to get on your phone every time the feeling, or the cue is boredom, and the habit is getting on my phone, and the reward is Instagram. So his example, though, is you don't want to eat junk food, but you come home and there's cookies on the counter. Well, you weren't even hungry. You didn't want a cookie that badly. And now you're just eating the cookie because it's there in front of you. And that's a part of the environment. So something I did actually a second ago when I was in the middle of reading this book is I had my supplements in a shelf in the closet. And I forgot to take them yesterday. And that's pretty annoying because I'm ramping up my consistency with all my stuff. So I actually put them on my nightstand. And now I'll see them when I wake up. I'll see them multiple times in the morning when I'm in my room doing my stretches or doing my reading, or when I sit down right here to film my YouTube, I see my supplements right there. And if I fail to take them in all those instances, well, at least when I go to bed, they'll be right there too. I'll have no excuse. I'll just take them. They're right there. So an idea that I thought was actually really interesting is he said, so James Clear said, stop thinking about your environment as full of objects and rather think of your environment as full of relationships. So the example from the book that I thought was really cool, one person has a couch in their living room. Two people, let's just say 2 people have a couch in their living room. For one person, that couch means when they get home from work, they sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream while watching TV. That's their habit. They do it once, they like it, they do it the next day. Eventually it's just, boom, what it is. The second person, however, reads a book on their couch every evening before they brush their teeth and go to bed. In example 1, or for individual A, their relationship with the couch is ice cream and TV. And for individual B, their relationship with the couch is read a book. And so you can change your relationship with certain things. The other thing that he talks about is a study where they took a bunch of insomniacs and didn't allow them to do anything in the bedroom except sleep. And so they would send them to bed, and when they couldn't sleep, they'd remove them from the room. You can't sleep, you're out of the room. When they felt tired again, they'd go into the room. And after an amount of time, the insomniacs their brains realized that the room and the bed were only for sleeping. No TV, no phone, nothing. As soon as I'm in the room, I'm getting tired. As soon as I'm in the bed, I'm sleeping. And I have actually used this to tackle my sleep schedule, and it's something I've actually done recently where once I'm up and out of bed in the morning, I will not touch my bed until it is time to go to sleep because I was struggling with my sleep schedule. And if you're into health, you know that that's one of the most important things you can have is a good sleep schedule on top of a good diet and exercise routine. Your relationships with things in your environment matter, and your environment matters. Chapter 7, Part 1 is the secret to self-control. I think the first thing he says, spend less time in tempting situations. So the biggest thing I can think of if you're trying to get your life in order would be if you like to drink. And it's really hard if you, like to drink, to go out and hang out with your friends at bars who are drinking. You're not going to be able to stop drinking. if you've already stopped, you're not going to be like that for long. I can almost guarantee it. For 99% of people, you will not last long. If you are someone who struggles with Instagram, like I was just talking about, delete it. Oh, but I need it for this. Okay. It's your progress, not mine. Spend less time in tempting situations is the way to hack self-control, because I would consider myself very self-controlled. Once I read this chapter, I even realized that although I do have the power to be in situations and say no to things, maybe better than some people, I also noticed that a lot of what I do is reducing the amount of tempting situations. No Instagram on my phone. I don't go out with friends who are drinking or smoking or doing anything like that. I don't do that stuff. Those are a few really solid examples that I feel like can apply to pretty much everyone nowadays. So the biggest example in this section that I'm talking about, and I actually want to read a couple things from the book, is in, I think, the 1971, Vietnam War was heading into its 16th year. And what they found out was that over 15% of U.S. soldiers that were stationed were heroin addicts. And it says their follow-up research revealed that 35% of service members in Vietnam had tried heroin, and as many as 20% were addicted. So the interesting part of this and why it's relevant is one of the researchers, Lee Robbins, found that when they got home, only 5% of those people, so not 5% leaving 10%, 5% of the 15%. So that's like less than one out of the, if it's 100 people and 15% of them were addicted, that's 15 people. So less than one of those people in a percentage ratio became re-addicted within a year, which is crazy because normally it's 90% get re-addicted after they leave rehab. So just being in Vietnam around the war, their friends using the easy access, they're addicted, they come back. Less than 5% of those addicts became re-addicted in the first year, and only 12% of those 15% within 3 years. So 9 out of 10 soldiers who used heroin in Vietnam eliminated their addiction nearly overnight. And that's basically unheard of. Just like I said, 90% of people, according to the book at least, I'm not a freaking drug expert, I'm not a drug therapist, but 90%, according to the book, get re-addicted after they leave rehab. And it explains why, and that's they go to a separate environment. Not only do they get rid of the chemicals in the body, but they also do any kind of therapy, whatever, and they get clean. Literally, and also the habit, the addiction. But then they're released right back into the same neighborhood where their friends who are using are, their dealers are, their mental triggers. Maybe it's a person that stresses them out, or a bad relationship, or they always did it in a certain room of their house. So when they come home and see the room, like all of the mental triggers are going and telling them to use heroin again. So that story, or that study on those heroin addicts from Vietnam, the Vietnam War, is a testament essentially to how much your environment matters with anything, but in this context, breaking bad habits or addictions. So one of the quotes I'd like to share is, make the cues of your good habits obvious and the cues of your bad habits invisible. So the example here, so the example here is my supplements on the nightstand. That's a good habit. I made the cue obvious. They're right in front of me instead of in the closet drawer. Now, if you're someone who struggles with video games, for example, you would maybe even just after you're done using it, unless you want to quit for good, you just pack it up and put it away in the closet. You don't leave it out. For me, I've never really been a gamer, but for the last 2 months I have had an Xbox, and I have spent way more time than I should on that stupid thing. Now, in the last week or two, I haven't even had any problem, just because my desire hasn't been there. But if I still had a problem, but I wanted to make a change, I'd take it away and I'd put it in the closet where I couldn't see it, where I would forget about it. Easiest way to do it. It's easier to avoid the temptation than to resist it. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate you a lot. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you have anything you want to share, leave a comment what your favorite part was, anything you'd like to see from me in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one.